fellow bookworms, September is dead. My name is Whitney, and we are reading V.C. Andrews' My Sweet Audrina. We actually just finished this. This week we read pages 403 through 520, which is the final set of chapters 21 through 27. And I have a lot to say on this book. So today, of course, we are doing the final discussion questions for this set of chapters. My final thoughts should be out soon. So if you're not already, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you are notified when that goes up. And of course, give this video a like while you're at it. And then, of course, head on over to my website on the 30th, and the final set of discussion questions, which cover the whole book, will be up over there. And so you can participate in that, whether you've been participating in these chapter sets or not. That is, like I said, they're different discussion questions, and it does cover the whole book. So really excited to discuss this book further. Before I do, though, just of course want to remind everybody we do our series Saturdays every Saturday, like it says, and we are currently reading the Dresden Files, and we are just finishing up book 2, and then we are going to be jumping into book 3, so definitely check that out as well. This week, for our weekly reads, we are going to be finishing up Ain't No Mountain, and so you can see my video and my thoughts on this book in Wednesday's video, and then Wednesday we will start reading Carla Negger's Secrets of the Lost Summer. And just one last little hurrah, little piece of summer before we get into more spooky books and things like that. And so we will be reading this Wednesday, and then next Wednesday you can see my thoughts on this book. And then next Wednesday, just in case you want to participate and get a copy, we are going to be jumping into some spooky stories. We're actually doing 4 short stories that are in one book, and it's Four Summoner's Tale, and so the different authors are Kelly Armstrong, Christopher Golden, David Bliss, and Jonathan Mawberry. And I'm really excited to get into this. We'll go ahead and read the synopsis for you guys so you kind of have an idea of what we will be reading. And it says, 4 best-selling authors, 1 hell-raising premise. What if the dead could be summoned from their graves for a price? What if a quartet of distinctive storytellers took a stab at the deceptively simple idea on a dare? The answer lies here in Four Summoner's Tale, as these acclaimed writers accept the challenge and rise to the occasion in 4 brilliantly chilling ways. It's all in the execution. And so the first story by Kelly Armstrong is Suffer the Children. And it says, a preacher and his adopted daughter must solve the mystery of the newcomers to their isolated 19th century village, men who are preying on the residents' overwhelming grief with promises to bring the stricken back to life. And then the next one is Pipers by Christopher Golden. 23 people have already lost their lives to the ruthless cartel terrorizing their small Texas border town. But one man has a plan for revenge, if the town's survivors will let him use their loved ones to raise an army of the undead. And then A Bad Season for Necromancy by David Bliss. In merry old England, a rascally con man stumbles upon a book for raising the dead, but instead of using it to make money reviving relatives for the rich, he'll do just the opposite, because some family skeletons need to stay buried. Really excited for that story. And then the last one is A Live Day by Jonathan Mawberry. In war-torn Afghanistan, a U.S. military operative and his team face off against an ancient horror during a harrowing, off-the-books search and rescue mission. So yeah, again, there will be links in the description below where you can pick up a copy if you want to get a physical copy in your hands and participate with me. And then I have some more fun ones for the month of October for our weekly reads. So really excited to get into this. And hopefully you will join me. As always with our weekly reads, it doesn't hurt to check your local library. Something like this, I'm not sure that it would be there, but it doesn't hurt to check. And then also check to see if it's available on either Kindle or audiobook. If you don't mind reading books that way, it's a good option to participate in these weekly reads. So I'm really excited to get into this. But for now, let's go ahead and jump back into My Sweet Audrina. We're going to start with chapter 21 called Breaking Through. Why does Damien seem more upset over Billy than he was over Elsbeth? And I think with Elsbeth, she was kind of a reminder to him of his mistakes. And so even though I think he liked that she was always there no matter what, he kind of treated her badly. And I think like she was a constant reminder to him. So I think maybe he loved her in his own way, but that whole relationship was definitely more of the toxic ones. This is Anya. This is the one you always hear barking in the videos. I don't have the gate up, and so she decided to come on in. But this is the puppy. She's actually just turned a year old. But anyway, back to the discussion question. So yeah, I think it really is. She's just a reminder of everything bad that he's done in his life, and his shortcomings as a man. Where with Billy, she's kind of a fresh start. And so I think, one, she's just extra grateful for him, so there's none of that toxicity there, like with Elsbeth or Lucietta. And so I think he just kind of likes the attention with her and everything like that. And it was a fresh start for him. And so I think that's why he was more upset about Billy than Elsbeth, even though, obviously he had known Elsbeth a lot longer than Billy. So, and why is it Audrina doesn't seem to really care whether her suspicions about Arden and Vera are true? I think in one way it kind of takes the pressure off of her, and what she feels is her duty as a wife. So I think that might play into it for sure. And then also, I think just in general, she's sick at this point. Like, she's very, very weak. And with all that has happened, I think she might be slightly depressed as well. And so she's kind of lost her interest in what's happening, and she doesn't have any interest in it at all at this point. So she's kind of depressed and sickly and just doesn't have the energy to care at this point. Next up is chapter 22, called Again Upon a Rainy Day. Is it possible Sylvia is aware of what Vera is doing to Audrina? And I think for sure she is, because some of the actions that she does clearly shows she knows what Vera's doing. And then also she keeps saying Vera bad. And so I think that, she's very much aware that Vera is bad and doing things that aren't good. And I don't think, Vera necessarily takes precautions to make sure Sylvia is not watching or anything like that. I think she kind of underestimates Sylvia, and so I think Sylvia is very much aware of what Vera is doing for sure. If Arden truly loves Audrina, why does he keep maintaining a relationship with Vera? And so, we see, Vera trying to talk him into leaving Audrina, and I think he justifies it in his mind for sure. That you know Audrina's not meeting his needs or whatever he wants to tell himself. And so he justifies it in his mind. And I think, again, he likes the attention from Vera, even though he's aware that she's manipulative and toxic, and he loves Audrina, or so he thinks. I think he's just very much playing kind of the victim and justifying it in his own minds that he has needs. And then you have Damien, who was not a very good role model for him at all either. So, and let's see, the next one is chapter 23, which is Last Rites. Why is it that Sylvia not only understood, but also put so much effort into helping Audrina? And again, everybody underestimates her, and so she is aware, that there's something happening, and that it's not a good thing. And so I think that's, why she kind of understood that Audrina needs her help, and she understands that, even though she might not understand, the how dire the situation is, she does recognize that Audrina needs help and what Vera's doing is bad. And then I think she puts so much effort just for Audrina herself. Like, again, she might not realize just how dire the situation is, but she does recognize that Audrina is really, really upset, and is needing to get out of there, and so she keeps pushing and trying for Audrina, and she loves Audrina. So we know Arden likes to play the victim. Even so, how can he justify blaming Audrina for something out of her control? And this made me so mad. This part of the book, which again, if you haven't read it, you need to. But I think, Audrina calls him out. Like, she flat out calls him out on his behavior. And I think he just gets defensive and feels like he needs to justify it. The puppies, sorry, distracting me. But anyway, I think he just feels like he needs to justify it because he gets defensive. Where like no, like I mean, I just don't understand how he can even justify that, whether he's defensive or not. Like, he just. I liked him in the beginning of the book, but now I'm just over Arden for sure. But and then this next chapter is chapter 24, The Secret of the Wind Chimes. Why does Damien keep hinting instead of flat out telling Audrina the truth? And I think he's just not ready to say the words out loud. This lie has kind of taken on a life of its own, and I think also if he says the words out loud, there's no going back. Like there's kind of a finality. I don't know how to pronounce the word I'm trying to think of, but it's kind of a very final move to say the words out loud. Um, where if he just keeps hinting, he can kind of go backwards. If she just doesn't want to believe it, they can kind of go backwards. And so I think that's really why he just did not want to say the words out loud, because he just wasn't ready, and he wasn't ready to really cut that ribbon or whatever. I don't know what metaphors I'm trying to to use, but yeah, I just don't think he was ready, to make it as final as saying it out loud would make it. And so I think that's why he was just like hinting at it and trying to get her to figure it out. And then hoping, she would just continue to be in denial and it would be kind of mute point anyway. And even with the words said right out, why is Audrina still denying the truth and finding it easier to believe they are lying about this? And I think because of the two lies, this one is less complicated. Um, and less traumatic for her. And so I think that's why she wants to believe that even though she knows they're lying and they've lied about her whole childhood and she recognizes that on some level, I think, that's just really traumatic. Like not only did this thing happen to her as a child, but then her whole, growing up, her whole teenage years and everything has been a lie. And so it's easier to believe that they're lying about the truth they're telling than to believe the lies that they've told all the way up to this point. So, in chapter 25, the first Audrina. Why does Audrina need to see it, even though she instinctively knows the truth? And I think with all the lies and everything and the trauma, is brain's natural kind of defense system, and so that doubt is there, and her brain just doesn't want to accept it because that's gonna bring up more trauma and such for her. And so I think with it, you know the brain's trying to do its best to deny the truth, but seeing it and having that proof right there, there's no denying that. And so I think she had to see it. And I think as humans, we do that anyway. Like, we need to see something to believe it. A lot of times it's really, really hard for us to just take somebody at their word or anything like that. We really need to see the proof, and I think that's where Drina is at. Like, especially because her brain is trying to protect her, and so she not ready to fully accept without seeing it. I think so. And why does Audrina stop fighting Arden and accept her help? And I think she just kind of spent her energy. There was kind of this rush of anger and resentment and everything. And I think she kind of just spent that energy up and had no more fight left. And I think she recognizes that she doesn't have anybody else to help her. And he is willing to help her. And so I think that's why she kind of just finally gave up the fight, and then in turn accepted his help. Um, even though she recognizes, the things he's done is not okay. And chapter 26 is Papa's story. Why Damien can justify his reasoning for protecting Audrina as a child. Why did he continue to lie years later? And I honestly think the longer the lie went on, the harder it became to tell the truth, which is kind of typical. And so even though, as a child he could justify his reasoning for trying to protect her and everything, the lie just kept going on and on and on, and it got harder and harder to stay the truth. And then also, I don't know, he was probably worried how Audrina would react. She had come such a long way and she was doing so well. And so he was able to kind of continue to justify, his lies, um, because she was doing well and she had, healed in a sense. Obviously, that trauma was still there and she wasn't able to process it. And so that kind of was damaging to her. But yeah, I think that's kind of why he just continued to lie. And how does it speak to the differences between the two sisters that even knowing the full truth, Audrina could still find forgiveness and compassion, while Vera could only find hatred? And I think it shows just how toxic Vera was, despite how she was treated. I think it just shows she was toxic anyway. And she used how she was how she was treated as excuses, where it just shows, that Audrina, with all that happened to her, it never kind of poisoned her soul, essentially. Like, that kindness and that compassion was still there, and she was still willing to forgive and give others the benefit of the doubt. Like, the things that happened to her definitely kind of gave her a little bit of a backbone there, but that kindness and that compassion was kind of the core of who she was. And that does tie into the next question, which is from chapter 27, The Last Spin of the Web. Damien says they killed Audrina's ability to love selflessly. How far is this from the truth? And again, I think it's very, very far from the truth, because we see it, not only with how loving she is with Sylvia, but also her willingness to forgive and give multiple chances to both her father and Arden, and then her willingness to constantly give Vera the benefit of the doubt, even though Vera does not deserve that at all. So I think it's really, really far from the truth, and it's a shame that Damien doesn't recognize that at all. And what is it that keeps the White Fern women tied to that house? And part of it, I think, is just kind of the legacy of it and the family that's there and all the ghosts that are there. I think that definitely draws them to the house and keeps them, tied to it. But I also think there's a certain comfort there, with as toxic as it is, there's a familiarity. I can't speak today. That's there. And then, there's also a lot of unknown in the world. And so that, you know, it takes a lot to step out, and go out on your own. And Vera did it for a little while, but even she ends up back at that house. And so I think it just does, like, it's very complex, and there's a lot of ties, between family and history and legacy that keep them drawn to that house for sure. But that was it for those set of chapters. Let me know your thoughts, especially on Arden. Like, I want to know who else is very angry at him, or if I'm the only one. Also, again, remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification and give this video a like. My final thoughts should be up soon, and I hope you'll definitely check out that video, because I have a lot more to say that I did not say with these discussion questions. And so I really hope you will check out that video as well. And yeah, happy reading, everyone. Bye.